Welcome. Today we're going to do a sequence called Bipeds, How to Walk. And we're going to take a look at a lot of the movements that are involved in walking. And we're going to exaggerate a whole lot of them. And we're going to focus mainly on how does it feel when you exaggerate these movements, and how does the exaggerated movement lead to some additional range of motion, some additional strength, and some additional awareness of how you're walking and what's going on in the body as you walk. So, even though we'll be exaggerating some movements, I want you to uh, pay particular attention to keeping the movements that you're doing slow, smooth, and very gentle. So, slow, smooth, and gentle. We are going to use the wall, hence that white slab back there behind me. We're going to start with some easy movement in the neck and in the back of the shoulders to start with, just mostly as a loosening up exercise. So let's get started. We're going to start against the wall. And what I'd like you to do is put your heels against the wall. Arms are going to go out straight to the sides. So this is going to be a bird pose. And what we're going to do is we're going to stand with whatever will touch the wall. So in my case, my heels, my calves a little bit, my butt, shoulders, and that's about it. If I really push hard, I can get my head back, but that's not my natural stance. My head's probably 2 inches away from the wall, standing as I normally would. So I'd like you to find the middle of your back. And what we're going to do initially is we're going to take the middle of the back and we're going to push it back towards the wall. And that will tend to bring your head, the back of your head here, back towards the wall also. So let's just stand that way and notice what happens as you stand like that. Usually your chest is going to open a bit. Your pelvis might roll forward a little bit. And you're going to notice that you seem and feel to stand a little bit straighter. So with that additional straightness, we're going to take the neck. And if this is a model of my spine and my head, what we're going to do with the head is we're going to slowly rotate it to each side and then come back to the center. So we'll rotate the head off to one side, come back to center, rotate to the other side, come back to center. So we're just going to do a little bit of rotation here in the neck. So pushing the back or the middle of the neck back towards the wall. We're going to start. Exhale, look to the left, come back to center. Off to the right, back to center. Here's the breath work that we're going to do. Inhale as you look to one side. Exhale to center. Inhale to the other side. Exhale to center. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Keep your neck pushing back towards the wall. Again, make sure it's gentle. You're not going to crank on that neck and push it back. And as you do this movement, just feel what you feel in the neck and the upper shoulders. Are there any tight spots that you feel? And we're going to add a little bit of something here. As we turn the head to one side, we're going to take the chin and drop it straight down towards the floor. Come back up and to center. So we inhale to the side, drop the head, inhale back to center. Exhale to the side, drop the head, inhale to center. So each time you swing to the side, drop your chin down towards the ground. Keep the neck pressing back towards the wall. And release. All right. So that was just a basic neck loosening movement. What we're going to do next is do a little bit of work with the trapezius on the back side of the shoulders, and we're going to use the wall again. What I'd like you to do is to stand with your heels about 6 inches away from the wall. And we're going to keep a nice straight body, and we're just going to tilt back until we hit the wall. Now, what should be touching would just be across your upper back. So your shoulder blades, maybe a little part of the center of your spine will be touching. And then we're going to take the arms straight out. And from this position, we're going to push back with the hands. So the hands push back against the wall. The torso is going to move away from the wall and then release so that the shoulders and the shoulder blades come back to the wall. Push back with the hands, the torso moves away from the wall, release and come back. So both directions are nice and slow and smooth. The breath work here, inhale as you push away from the wall. Exhale as you come smoothly back to the wall. Now, if this is proving to be too hard, you can bring your heels closer to the wall. If this is too easy, you can move your heels a little bit further away from the wall. So you can adjust the intensity level for whatever it is you find best. Now, you may notice that the backs of your shoulders, your trapezius, are getting a little bit tight. One thing you can do to modify that is to give yourself a hug after each of these movements. So I inhale and push away from the wall. When I come back to the wall, I reverse the range of motion. So in other words, I stretch the trapezius and give myself a hug. Inhale, push away from the wall. Exhale, come back to the wall. Give myself a hug. Inhale. Exhale. And when you give yourself an exhale, note which arm is above the other. And you'll probably want to reverse that. So if the right arm is above the left, you'll probably want to reverse that so the left is above the right the next time you give yourself a hug. Let's do one more. And release. All right, shake it out a little bit. All right. We're going to start with a standing sequence. And what I'd like to do is start with your feet. So if you put your feet about hip width apart, and I want you to find 3 points on each foot, the base of the big toe, base of the pinky, and the center of the heel. And finding those 3 points, see if you can balance out the pressure on all 3 points on each foot so that the pressure between the 3 points on each foot is well balanced. And what we're going to do is we're going to first start by lifting the heels a tiny little bit. Really just unweight them. We're not really lifting them, we're unweighting them so that more of the pressure is on the 2 front pressure points, the base of the big toe and the base of the pinky. And then slowly even the pressure on all 3 points. And then we're going to bring the pressure to the center of the heel and the pinky and lift the big toe point off the mat. So we're going to roll the foot to the outer edge of the foot. The inner edge where the big toe is lifted. And then slowly drop the big toe down so that you are evenly balanced between the 3 points, and then lift the pinky. So the outer edge of the foot is going to unweight or lift a slight bit, and then slowly roll so that the big toe point is now lifted. And we're just going to roll back and forth. The outer edge is lifted, the pinky toe point is lifted. Bring that down slowly. Lift the big toe points. Bring that down and roll to the outer edge. Down we come. Let's do that roll from edge to edge 2 more times. And release. And now see if you can find an even balance between all 3 points on each foot. So one of the key parts about walking as a biped is balance. And we're going to take a look at balance and how anchoring the foot in a mindful movement like this is beneficial in terms of working on your proprioception and your sense of balance. We're also going to be looking in later movements at using balance along with twists and counter twists and how that is impacted in your walking. So let's move our feet a little bit wider apart. Find those feet and anchor them into the ground. So we're going to do a little bit of a mindfulness movement here. I want you to anchor both feet and keep the attention on the left foot. So I'm going to bring my weight to the left foot. Find that foot, feel like it is anchoring down into the ground, and I'm going to slowly lift the right foot so it's up off the ground. And then on my next exhale, I'm going to bring the right foot down, anchor it. On the next inhale, I'm going to lift my left foot off the ground. So on the exhale, I'm going to put a foot down and anchor it. On the inhale, I'm going to lift the opposite foot. So we're going to make this nice and slow. Exhale, bring a foot down and anchor. Inhale, lift the other side. Exhale, down. Inhale, lift. The key here is to keep your attention on the foot that's anchored. Feel it anchoring into the ground. When you're able to keep that attention on that foot, your balance will improve, but it's probably going to take some training. It's not anything that you can easily get. It takes a little while to maintain a focus on the anchoring of your foot, especially when you're doing a more complex movement. This movement here is quite simple, so easy, hopefully, to maintain that anchor and that attention on the foot anchoring into the ground. Let's do one more each side. Focus on that anchor point and the foot being anchored into the ground. And release. All right. So one of the things that's really important in terms of walking is being able to bend the knees and to have some good strength here in the quads. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at how we can exaggerate a little bit in the bending of the knees. And what we're going to do, I'll show you a sideways view here, is we're going to take a very small step forward. We're going to lift the back heel a little bit, and we're going to do a one-legged squat. The back foot is really there for balance. It's not doing a whole lot. So there's a movement there. We take a small step, the left foot forward, the right heel lifts, and we bend the left knee, come into a squat. So we take a very small step, lift the back heel, squat, come back up. Step, squat, come back up. Now, the degree of squat is up to you. You don't want to make this so incredibly difficult that it's straining everything. We're going to be doing a lot of other work here. I don't need you to strain yourself here in terms of how deep a squat you do. So I'm going to switch around, go the other direction. If you'd like to do some breath work with this, the footwork is similar. Exhale as we put the foot down and squat. Inhale as we come up. Exhale, put the foot down and squat. Inhale up. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. One more. And release. So you should probably feel a little bit of activation here, a little bit of muscle energy from doing that sort of one-legged squat. One of the keys to walking is a combination of the leg bending along with the pelvis rotating side to side. And we're going to look at that right now, a combination of the two. Knees bending one at a time, along with the pelvis rotating. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to look at this from I'll show you a head-on view and then we'll look at it from the side. So what we're going to do is we're going to take one knee and push it forward and the other knee pushes back. So in this case, my left knee comes forward, right knee comes back, is what it looks like from the side. Left knee forward, right knee back. Come back to center. Reverse that. Right knee forward, left knee back. Come back to center. So our breath work here is we're going to exhale as we come down. Inhale as we come up. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. And what I'd like you to do while we do this movement is to feel what you feel. You will probably feel some stretching in the hip area of the knee that's back. You may feel some things in the knee that is pushing forward. You may feel something in the knee that's pressing back. So whatever it is, just notice what you feel as we do this movement. One knee forward, one knee back, and notice as you press the knee forward and one knee back that the pelvis tilts forward. I want you to keep a nice long back, a nice straight back as the pelvis tilts forward. And if you'd like to exaggerate this movement a little bit further, what we're going to do is have the shoulders follow the general movement in the pelvis in terms of rotation, but we're going to exaggerate the shoulder movement a little bit more. So let's look at it from the side or from the front. So left leg forward, right leg back. Notice the pelvis rotates to the right a little bit. Shoulders are going to rotate a little bit to the right also. What I'd like you to do is to exaggerate the shoulder movement a little bit so the shoulders are facing mostly off to the side. Inhale up. Exhale, right knee forward, left knee back. Inhale up. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. So notice what you feel here. Notice the torso twisting a little bit past where the pelvis twists. And release. All right. We are going to do a movement where we combine the twisting movement of the pelvis with the bending of the knees, and we're going to add in a squat so that instead of the knees just moving like this, the knees are going to gradually move down towards the ground. And what we're going to do is we're going to combine that basic movement with a squat. So here's what it looks like. First, I'll show you a front view. So I'll press my left knee forward, right knee back, come back to center. Exhale, right knee forward, left knee back, come back to center. What I'm going to do is each time I move the knees forward and back, I'm going to squat a little bit lower. So the hips are going to slowly drop down. So this is what it looks like. As I slowly lower the hips down towards the ground, I'm still pressing the alternate knees forward and back, and then slowly come back up to a fully vertical position. And release. Let's do that one more time. I'll turn sideways so you can see a little bit better how it looks from a side view. So we'll start with the same basic movement. One knee forward is my left knee, right knee back. Come up, reverse that. And now we'll start to slowly drop the hips down towards the ground so that we move into a squat position with the knees moving in alternate directions. And then we slowly come up. And release. So I want you to take a moment and just notice what you feel from doing that movement. There's a lot of muscles involved there. The quads are certainly involved. The glutes are certainly involved in terms of making the pelvis rotate side to side. So I'd like you to just feel what you feel as we do that movement. So we're going to take a look at a pelvic twist. One of the key factors in walking is that the pelvis rotates side to side as the legs move forward. So what we're going to look at is just at the pelvic movement. So in this state, my pelvis is facing straight towards the camera. And if I were to take my right foot back behind me, my pelvis is now facing about 45 degrees off to the side. Now, none of us really walk with the pelvis rotating 45 degrees, but as I said, we're going to exaggerate some movements so that we can look at range of motion and feel the movement a little better, work on our strength. So let's bring that foot back. So we're going to do a little bit of movement with a free swinging leg. The leg is going to swing in 180 degrees from behind us to the side to front. So let's start by anchoring our left leg. Find that anchor point on the foot and lift the right leg up. Bring it behind you and bring your toes down. And then extend that leg so that the pelvis rotates a little bit further to the side. And then we're going to bring the leg to the side, toes down, and then bring it in front of the planted foot. Notice what direction the pelvis is now angled at. So we're going to start by just touching and tapping the 3 points. So behind, to the side, to the front. And notice the direction that the pelvis is going to face. So here the pelvis is way off to the right, straight to the front, off to the left. Let's do one more 180-degree move here. And let's release. Feel what you feel. Typically, you're going to feel a lot of twisting and muscle engagement here in the calf. You may feel it also in the glutes. There's a combination of muscles involved in making that twist. Some of them may feel a little more sensitive than others. So let's go to the second side. Anchor your right foot. Find that attention. Keep that attention as you bring your foot back. Foot to the side. Foot forward. So let's just do a little bit of toe tapping here, nice and slow. And again, notice the angle of the pelvis as you do this movement. Come back to center and release. So we're going to do that same movement, but to make it a little more interesting, we're going to keep the toes lifted for the whole stroke. So we're going to swing the foot behind, swing it to the side and forward without bringing the toe down to the mat. So let's start. We're going to bring the foot back. And before we start, really, I should mention again, anchor the left foot. So find that anchor point. Keep your attention on that as we bring the foot behind. And then we bring the foot forward. And then swing it behind and forward. And if this seems okay in terms of the range of motion, you might want to see if you can go a little further. So bring the foot a little farther forward, bring the foot a little farther around behind you, As always, keep your attention on your anchor foot. Let's do one more. And release. All right, and notice what you feel in the left leg. Where do you feel the muscle activity from that movement? So let's go to the second side. So right foot, anchor that right foot in. We'll take the foot back behind and forward and back. And I want you to keep your attention on that anchor foot. And if you'd like, you can increase the arc a little bit more, bring it a little past the front foot, bring it a little past the foot in the back. And again, notice the rotation that's taking place in the pelvis around the planted hip joint. Feel that movement as you do this movement. Let's do one more. And release. All right. Notice what you feel. Just notice what you feel. There's a lot of rotation going on in the planted hip joint. There's a lot of engagement in the glutes, a lot of engagement in the upper thigh, and a lot of engagement in the calf in order to support you while the pelvis rotates in that full range of motion. So we've taken a look a little bit at the feet. We've looked a little bit at the legs, the upper thigh. We've looked at kind of a pelvic rotation. And now what I'd like to do next is to take a look at the hamstrings and the back. And what we're going to do with the hamstrings is that we are going to exaggerate a walking movement. So what we'll do is we'll start with a side view here. And I want you to just lift your right leg up and put it down. And then let's do the same side. And what I'd like you to do is to watch what's happening with the pelvis and the lumbar curve. When you lift this leg, what happens to the pelvis? Does it tilt back like this? Or does it tilt forward like this? You see that a little bit better? So again, does it tilt back or does it tilt forward? And that's a question. And one of the answers that we're going to do there is we're going to exaggerate that forward tilt in the pelvis. And the reason we're going to exaggerate that is that we want to work really strongly with the upper quads, the hip flexors, and the psoas and the iliopsoas. So we're going to work on a leg lift with a tilting forward in the pelvis so that the muscles in the lower torso and the upper thighs and the psoas can work together, and we'll strengthen them and work a little bit on range of motion. So this is what we're going to do. In order to get that nice long back with a nice lumbar curve, we're going to work on lifting the arms. So as the arms lift and the knees bend a little bit, you're going to notice that the pelvis tilts forward a little bit and you get a little bit more lumbar curve. So standing here, bend the knees, lift the arms, and notice your butt seems to stick out a little bit more. You seem to have a little bit more lumbar curve. So bend the knees, lift the arms, come back to straight-legged and vertical. Bend the knees, lift the arms, come back to neutral. The breath work here. Inhale as you lift and bend the knees. Exhale as you come back to neutral. Inhale. Exhale. And as you do this movement, I want you to pay attention to the pelvis and whether you can notice the pelvis tilting forward a little bit as the arms lift and the knees bend. So we're going to take that same movement and exaggerate it a little bit. And we're going to exaggerate that forward tilt a little bit. So we're going to do what's known as a forward flexion. So a forward flexion, what we do is we keep the back in a nice long straight shape, and the movement takes place right here at the hip joints. So in the same sort of back position that you had with the arms lifted and the knees bent. So that's a long back position, nice lumbar curve. Keeping that lumbar curve, we're going to hinge right here at the hip joints. So that just flexes forward a little bit. Okay, so this is a long back, knees bent, arms lifted, butt is sticking out, nice lumbar curve. Keep that lumbar curve and we'll tilt forward a tiny little bit, not very far. So exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale. And notice what you feel as we do this slight forward flexion. Let's do two more. Exhale down, inhale up, exhale down, inhale up. So let's add to that movement the lifting of the knee. So we're going to increase the intensity level on the upper quads and the psoas in terms of making this movement happen. So I'm going to bring my hands behind. So I'm going to bend the knees a little bit, lift one knee as I flex forward. Exhale down. Inhale. There's that forward flexion. Lift the knee. Exhale down. Inhale, lift, and flex forward. Exhale down. Now, the key here is to keep the back nice and long. Don't let the lumbar curve collapse. You're not going to get a really big knee lift here, but it's more important to pay attention to the alignment that's going on in the back and the hip joints. And even though the movement is not as big, the alignment, the correct alignment, makes the movement much more valuable because it targets specific muscles, in this case, the upper quads and the psoas. So let's do two more. And release. All right, see what you feel there. See if you can feel some additional muscle heat here or in the low torso from doing that particular movement. So we did a little bit of work here with the upper thighs and the psoas, and I'd like to come back to the hamstrings. We've done a little bit of work with the hamstrings, but what I'd like to do is a much fuller range of motion for the hamstrings. The hamstrings are quite important in terms of strength and range of motion for nice movement, nice, smooth, easy movement in terms of walking. So what we're going to do is range of motion, and what we're going to look at is that same forward flexion, but we're going to do it with a much deeper forward flexion. So we want to maintain that nice long back again. So let's take a look at how we achieve that back. You can bend the knees, lift the arms, and then if you can just bring the arms down, feel that lumbar curve. You may feel like your butt is sticking out, but feel that lumbar curve. We want to keep that lumbar curve. Some people find bringing the hands behind the back helps with maintaining that long back. And from this position, what we're going to do is we're going to exhale and flex forward and come down as far as we can come until the hamstrings bring us to a halt. And then very slowly come back up. Let the legs straighten. Exhale, bend the knees a little and flex forward into a deep forward flexion. Keep that back long. Inhale up. Exhale, bend the knees, deep forward flexion. Inhale up. As you do this, I want you to feel what's going on in the hamstrings. So as we flex forward, feel the hamstrings lengthening and eventually stretching to their limit and stopping. And then feel them engage as we come back up to vertical. Now, let's make this a little more interesting. One thing we can do to kind of make the forward flexions asymmetric is to lift one heel slightly off the ground. So I'm going to face forward here. I'm going to lift my right heel, tiny bit, tiny bit, half inch maybe. And then keeping that nice long back with the other knee bent, I'm going to do the same movement. So a nice deep forward flexion, keeping that long back, keeping that lumbar curve, come back up. At the top, put that heel down, lift the left heel, flex forward, come back up. Lift the right heel, flex forward, come back up. So each time you're vertical, switch the heels. Lift one, put the other one down. Let's do one more each side. Feel the hamstring that's working. When we lift that heel a tiny little bit, we switch the actions on those legs quite a bit to the planted leg. So I'd say probably the planted leg, if my left heel is lifted and I'm doing this flexion and this right leg is planted, I'd say probably 80% of the action and the muscle engagement is happening on the planted leg, and only about 20 on the side with the lifted heel. So it's a good way to do an asymmetric movement so that you can look at, how does this leg feel in relation to the other leg? Is one stronger or other weaker? Are there areas where you feel certain things happening in one leg versus the other? Anyway, an asymmetric movement like that is really helpful. So what we're going to look at here, we were just looking at range of motion for the hamstring. So as we flex forward, we stretch the hamstrings and then we engage them to bring the torso back up. What we're going to look at now is shortening the hamstrings as much as possible. And we're going to do that again from a standing position. And what we're going to do is we're going to take one leg back. So this is my right leg, and take it back a tiny little bit. Then I'm going to lengthen that leg, and I want you to notice what happens to your back, especially your middle back. Typically what's going to happen is that, if your thoracic curve is normally like this, as you extend that leg back, the thoracic curve is going to tend to straighten and reverse the curve a little bit in the thoracic. So let's start this again. Take the right leg back and lengthen that leg so the heel pushes down towards the ground and come out. Left leg, lengthen that heel, lengthen the leg, come on out. So the inhale is, here's how we do. We inhale, foot back, leg lengthens, heel presses down towards the ground. Exhale, come back to center. Inhale, lengthen that leg. Exhale to center. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Let's do one more each side. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. And exhale. So let's add a little bit to that. What I'd like to do is to further the engagement. You'll notice when this leg extends down, there's a good engagement here in the hamstring. So the hamstrings are fairly short in this position. What I'd like to do is we're going to add a bit of arm movement, that same arm movement up, so that we engage the back muscles to also shorten. So here's what it's going to look like. Inhale, step back, push the heel down, lengthen the leg, and lift the arms. Exhale, come back to center. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale, lengthen that leg, lift the hands. Exhale to center. Your gaze is going to follow your hands. And I want you to notice how the back of the body feels with the back leg lengthened and extended, and the arms lifted, and the head looking up towards the sky. I want you to feel the hamstrings and feel the back muscles that are engaging all along the back. And release. All right, we're going to do one more movement in this particular little sequence. And what we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of a foot lift to the back foot. So as we extend and we engage all the muscles along the back side of the body, we're then going to tilt a little bit forward at the planted hip. So let's take a look and see what it looks like. So I'm going to bring my right leg back, and then this leg extends. I lift with my hands, and then once I've got everything engaged there, I'm going to lift that back foot and tilt a slight bit forward. Exhale down. Second side, left foot back. Extend that left leg on the inhale as you lift the hands up, and a very slight tilt forward. Exhale, come on down. So I want you to feel what's going on the back of the body as we do this complete movement. So foot comes back, inhale, leg lengthens, arms lift, tilt forward just a tiny bit. Exhale down. Inhale, extend that leg, slight tilt forward. Exhale down. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Let's do one more each side. Feel what's going on in the back side of the body as we do this movement. And release. Nice. So, you should be feeling a fairly good amount of muscle engagement going on the back side of the body. Middle back, upper back, hamstrings also. So we're going to take a look at that same movement, but we're going to add a little bit of a forward bend to the movement. So here's what it's going to look like. We're going to take the leg back and lift, and then we're going to swing the leg forward and meet it with the opposite elbow. So leg comes back and lifts, meet it with the opposite elbow. Let's come to the second side. Lift and touch. Lift and touch. Lift, touch. Inhale as we lift. Exhale as we touch and come all the way down. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Let's do one more. Inhale. Exhale. And release. All right. We're going to look at a counter twist, which is what you do when you walk. Counter twist is where the pelvis rotates in one direction, the shoulders rotate in the opposite direction. So we're going to start like this with feet about half hip width apart. We're going to take the right leg and bring it across the body towards the left side of your body as far as she'll go. Notice what happens with the pelvis. The pelvis is twisted and step out. Let's bring the left leg across and step out. So there's the basic movement. Leg lifts across the body. What we're going to add is a little bit of arm movement so that the opposite hand will touch the thigh. So notice what we have here. The pelvis, the hips are rotated to the left. My shoulders are rotated towards the right. And step out. Inhale, lift. Notice that counter twist. Exhale down. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Now, as you do this, I want you to think long back, nice lumbar curve. Think long from the feet all the way up through the head. Inhale. Exhale. Let's do one more each side. And release. Okay, we're going to do one more movement, and this is going to be an exaggerated walking movement. I'm sure all of you have seen models walking on the catwalk in a fashion show, and they walk with a very exaggerated foot strike. What we're going to do is even exaggerate that a little bit more. So here's what it's going to look like. We're going to start with feet about hip width apart. We're going to take a right foot across the body as far over to the left side of the body as we can and put our toes down, just our toes. And then what we're going to do is slowly transition to bringing the weight onto that front foot. And then bring the free foot all the way over to the right side of the body on your toes, and then slowly transition your weight to that foot. And then continue in that vein. So toes down, slow transition, toes down, slow transition. And I'm running out of screen area. Let's do it this way. I'll walk side to side. So let's start with the left leg. The left leg comes across to the far right side of the body, as far over as it'll go on your toes. And then slowly bring the foot down and transition your weight to that foot. Bring the right foot across onto the toes. Step and transition slowly. And when you hit the end of your mat, feel free to turn around and come back the other direction. One thing I want you to pay attention to as we do this movement is, what do you feel as you do this really slow movement? What do you feel? Where do you feel muscle engagement? This is a pretty complex movement. There's a lot of moving parts here, and you're probably going to feel a lot of different things going on in the body. So I'm going to bring the right leg across, slowly transition the weight to it. Left foot across onto the toes. Transition to that foot. Let's do one more stretch. And again, I want you to feel what you feel here as we do this really, really exaggerated movement. So I'm going to bring the left foot across, transition slowly. Right foot across, transition slowly. And release. So I want to thank you for joining me today. Hopefully you've done some interesting stuff and you've felt some interesting ways of noticing and improving the way that you walk. So I want to thank you all for joining me. Thanks again. Namaste.